The American Civil Liberties Union is sounding an alarm over what it sees as the militarization of local police forces in this country. It examines SWAT team tactics and the use of military-type equipment by 20 police departments across the country. It found that most, nearly 80% of SWAT deployments were to execute search warrants. 7% were for active shootings, hostage, or barricade situations. So let me bring in Norm Stamper. He's a former Seattle police chief, and also Jim Kavanaugh, former ATF special agent in charge and an MSNBC law enforcement analyst. Norm, let me start with you. Is it really a matter of some of the military-style gear and equipment that the police officers are using, or is it a matter of the actual aggressive tactics that's the problem?
It's both. One of the things that we have to recognize, of course, is that police officers are not soldiers. Soldiers follow orders for a living. Police officers make decisions for a living. And the decisions we're seeing, particularly in support of drug raids against suspected nonviolent drug offenders, are producing horrific consequences throughout this country.
So, Jim, what we're talking about here, and ACLU found that most the SWAT team raids involved drug searches in private homes. A couple of widely reported cases where children have actually been injured in the middle of the night in some of these raids. So is it really the tactics, or, and frankly, some of this, officers are going, Jim, in the middle of the night into a home, they're not sure what's there, and they are being aggressive?
That's right, TJ. Look, no raid should happen at 3 a.m. In the federal service, the federal rules of criminal procedure don't allow search warrants to be served during that hour. It has to be served during the daylight hours. And so it shouldn't be served a search warrant at 3 a.m. to start with. Secondly, what failed in that Georgia case where the child was injured in the crib is lack of surveillance. No surveillance, pre-surveillance to find out what's going on there. The person they had the warrant for wasn't even present.
So are we seeing then, Jim, is there some shift then that, are we lagging in training in some way? Is there some shift where they are being a little more aggressive? Or maybe we're just pointing these situations out a little more? What is it?
Well, what happens is the tactical side of the house in the police service overcomes the negotiation side, the surveillance side. So what executives have to do is they have to emphasize their negotiating elements and emphasize their surveillance elements. Put as much energy into those two things as you do into the tactical operator side, and you'll have a better balance. I would agree with the chief, Norm, there that just said the drug raids, minor drug raids. It's used too many times on minor drug raids. I totally agree with that. I think it's overused in that, where surveillance can get the person away safely. And, you know, you don't need to do a dope rescue. We don't rescue dope.
Yeah, Norm, let me bring you back in here. And you know, as a police chief, I mean, it's protect and serve, but a lot of what police officers do is about PR and public relations, and these look awful for police departments when you have a child who is injured in the middle of the night when his parents and nothing is in the house is found, when some of these aggressive tactics are used. So I guess what is the damage that you see being done to the community when things like this happen and word gets out that things like this are taking place, the message it sends to the public?
Well, it looks bad because it is bad. I think we need to start with the drug war, which has made enemies of tens of millions of Americans right here in domestic life in the United States. We need to look at the damage that has been done to our constitutional guarantees, particularly the Fourth Amendment. Let's assume for the moment that there's a legitimate case to be made for a SWAT operation, and there are times and places, you mentioned them, barricaded suspects with armed suspects who have seized hostages. That is an appropriate situation that calls for a SWAT operation. Going after half a baggie of marijuana at 3 or 4 o'clock in the morning is really, I hate to say it, insane. But I think what's happened is American law enforcement has got caught up in the largesse of the federal government handing out Department of Defense or Homeland Security military and military-grade equipment to local law enforcement.
So why then? Do they really need? I mean, there are some cases, though, would you say, Norm, where these things, it could be nice to have them, or you think they don't really need some of these as military-style armored vehicles, things along those lines, just no use for them at all?
No, I think there is a time and a place. Okay. I can tell you right now, I was arrived in the immediate aftermath of the so-called McDonald's massacre in San Diego back in 1984. Had we had an armored personnel carrier we could have driven that vehicle up to or through the door of the McDonald's and ended the carnage earlier. So there is a time and a place, but what's happening is that we've seen this vast proliferation in support of drug enforcement, usually in this country, that has produced devastating and tragic consequences for so many elderly people, young people, family pets, police officers gunned down in the line of duty.
Jim, let me bring you in, and you wrap it for me here in my last 30 seconds I have. You can follow up on anything you heard there, but also I want to ask you about the fact that there are some 300 million guns out there in homes in this country, and does that, the idea of having that kind of armed populace, the idea that so many guns are out there, is that some kind of way contribute to the use of some heavy-duty gear and maybe some of the more aggressive tactics we're seeing?
Well, like Norm said, you need armored vehicles. You got to protect the tactical officers who are some of the best in the country. And a Kevlar helmet and an armored vehicle is protection from being shot. Yeah. I mean, sometimes you want to use the armored vehicle to put your negotiator up front and to get him there safely so he can interact with the people. So there's a need for it. Norm's argument, and he makes a great point, is it's overused, especially in small drug cases, and it needs to be tamped back. And also, sometimes you need to start your arrest procedure with surveillance that makes it safer, and even a surround and call by a negotiator that says we have a warrant and you need to come out. So we need to change the tactics.
Change the tactics. Former Seattle Police Chief Norm Stamper, MSNBC law enforcement analyst Jim Cavanaugh. Gentlemen, thank you both. I'm pretty sure this will not be the end. A wide-ranging report here, a lot to get into there. But thank you both for being here.